Hey everybody, this is Brad from Johnson Small Engines, better known as the One-Hand Mechanic. If I can do it, you can too. Today we are working on an LX176 John Deere, and I want to show you how to install the transmission drive belt. So the first thing we need to do is take out the tools that are needed. Tools we need today, I want to use a 3/8 ratchet, a 1/4 inch electric ratchet. These are both electric ratchets. If you guys have a 3/8 or 1/4 inch, whatever ratchet you have out there, to put on a 13 millimeter, a 15 millimeter, and a 5/8 socket. PB blaster, you may need it. Definitely going to need the, this is copper-based anti-seize, and this is a spray anti-seize. Either one will work. A Phillips head screwdriver. Basically, I'm just using this as a pry bar, but it's perfect thickness and length for me to use. Anything equivalent to this will work just fine. The 1/2 inch and 13 millimeter, I'm not sure if one of the nuts and bolts is either a 13 or 12 or a 1/2 inch wrench. Either one of these will probably work. Definitely going to use a 5/8 wrench. The idler pulleys here, the V idler pulley is an AM11546. That's the V idler. The flat idler pulley is a AM115459. The transmission drive belt is a M110978, and this is all this right here is for the LX176 Hydro. Pretty much, I don't think they changed any of the numbers for the LX176, so I think there was only one 176, and this is definitely an old machine. So let's get to it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this up in the air, and we'll get right to it. Okay, so this transmission drive belt, as you can see, has got many cracks in it and needs to be replaced. All right, this is a hydrostatically driven transmission, and the first thing you need to do is relieve the tension on the drive belt itself. And the easiest way to do that would be to push in the brake, but that will make this spring right here have tension, more tension than I want. So we need to take the spring off. And one of the easier ways I have found to take the spring off, I've tried everything, coat hanger, you name it, pulled up on this thing from above. A Phillips head screwdriver, you're gonna just go ahead and put it underneath the spring, and you're gonna try to wiggle it. Now, you may need a little bit of lubrication here just to get this, my shaft on this Phillips head screwdriver is probably about 3/8. I'm just gonna try to get it far enough up to get right over this ridge right here. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna use that ridge as a prying up on it, and then I'll be able to pry it off of there. Now, this isn't for everybody, so if you don't feel that you can do this, then I would not do this. But once the spring is off, you have to remember how it went down here. There's a bar right here, an L bracket that this goes onto, just like so. All right, goes like that. And I'm just gonna show you guys how I'm gonna reinstall this. Okay, so I put the spring on, I'm pushing in with my arm and right over, okay? And then slide this out. All right, so there you go. That's how you have to reinstall it. Over the ridge here. Just like so, like that. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it does come off. We're gonna go ahead and leave the spring down off to the side. Now, that took off all of our tension. So we're gonna also replace these pulleys because they are just old, and you do have to remember, if you're gonna replace these pulleys, where these brackets go. To get it out and around the transmission fan, there's a bracket right here that needs to be moved out of the way. You can try to push it up past there, but the brand new belt is not going to be easily put on. And the easiest way to do this is to take off this bracket, at least move it out to the side. Now, on this side here, to right here is the nut that has to come. We need to loosen this nut. So I'm going to put a 13 millimeter wrench on it, and then 13 millimeter socket on my ratchet. And I'm just going to loosen this a little bit. And then I'm going to go file this over. It comes up here, over down here, onto this one here. Go ahead and loosen this one up. Over here. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to take the nut off of this one so I can move the bracket out of the way. Okay, so at this point we have this loose, and what we need to do is we need to get a whole bunch of slack to get it up and around the fan of the transmission. So I'm going to come up to the front, and this is your electric PTO clutch here. And we need to get this, we need to slide this down. We have to undo the electric part of the PTO. This is original, and you can tell that right here, it's actually connected to the frame. This was a nice little bracket that they had. They made this. You should be able to pull your connector out. It definitely looks like somebody's been in here because this connector right here has definitely been, it's been pulled out. When you push that connector back in again, it's supposed to lock it in pretty good right there, but I was able to just pull this out pretty easily. All right, that's a nice feature. You may or may not have that. It's just a nice little clip in there on the frame that kept the wiring nice and straight, and it wouldn't get wrapped up in anything. At this point, we have to take this bolt out here, and that should be a 15mm socket. I don't pull it out all the way because the clutch may fall, and luckily this one was easy coming out. We're going to go ahead and drop that down like that. It looks like we have remnants of mice here. Now when you put this clutch back in, you have to remember that there's a key right there, and that key goes up into the shaft right here. Okay, so you have to make sure you line that up, and after you line that up, just make sure you remember where your electrical cable came out. It came out on this side, and you're also going to have a stud coming out of the front of the frame right here, and this right here is going to go into that stud. So everything's got to line up just perfectly. Now what I try to do is I try not to turn anything while it's off, so it'll line up pretty close, and then you can turn it as you go back in, but we'll get to that. Now this pulley here, sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't, and this one here did, which is good. If yours does not come down, you may have to take off this bracket to get this pulley out, or to get the belt around the pulley. You can see how worn this is, and the new one's not going to be this thin. So luckily ours came down. And you can use PB Blaster and soak it overnight on top and let it soak in through. And I would definitely recommend putting some anti-seize when you put it back up in there. So we're going to now also remember that this side goes up towards the engine, and that side here is on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write up on this side just so I don't forget. All right, so now we have to get this off of our steering. It's a little bit harder for me to take off this nut right here than it is to take off this nut on top here because it's real easy access up there. This is going to drop down. Be careful where it drops. You don't want to clock yourself. And I just need to be able to get this belt through the arm of it and through the side here like that. Okay, at this point we have enough to take it around here like this. And this is what I was saying, we needed all the slack we could get to come around the back of your fan. And I'm basically just going to walk it around the back of the fan, and by turning the fan, by turning the pulley, you can also walk it out, and it will help you get it out all the way, which it is now. Okay, at this point, what we're going to do is, I'm going to be replacing these, but even if you're not replacing them, sometimes you can just go ahead and just slip the belt through the pulley and the guide right here. This one is a little bit tight, and I would definitely suggest loosening it up. Now I'm going to replace these, so it should be a 15mm or a 5/8. You can see that this was also inside this frame here. You can see where there's actually an adjustment for this. All right, so there is a small adjustment. I'm going to put it back to where I found it, which is back up in here. I'm just going to take this down. It's a carriage bolt. You don't want to lose everything, but just make sure everything lines back the way it was. I'm going to go ahead and take this pulley off. I'm going to put the nut back on so I don't lose this bracket right here. And I'm going to go ahead and take this one off here. And if you need to, look back at this video. These were just like here. Now, they don't give you a certain spot, so you have to kind of take a good guess on how it was sitting. We're just going to make sure that it goes back up like that. Now, there's also a nut here, and this is a carriage bolt on the back of this. I'm going to pull down slightly to hold tension on that pulley. and it looks like there might have been an adjustment. There also is an adjustment on this. So we have an adjustment here that you can have that too. It's pretty nice that there's some adjustments on these. I'm gonna go ahead and get the new belt and the new pulleys. We have the new belt and new pulleys. Make sure you always match up your pulleys, make sure they're right. The genuine John Deere belt we're gonna use. I always recommend that if you have the other belt and it's not broken, that you just unravel it here and then match it up to your other one. The other one obviously is going to be a little more stretched, but you just want to make sure that it's close. And this one here is very close. You can try to leave some of those brackets in there, but if you look closely, the old belt is definitely thinner than the new belt, so just keep that in mind. You know, you definitely you can take your chances and try to keep some of the stuff together, but it's just easier to take everything apart. Remember, this is a V pulley and it has a V in it. The other one is a flat pulley and it's a flat. All right, always make sure the V of the belt goes in with the V of the pulley. All right, and we're going to go ahead and try to put this back exactly how we had it. And I'm going to try to move this up closer to where it was originally. Okay, I'm going to put this pulley back where I thought that it was. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that up. All right, make sure it spins freely. It's going to have a little tension on from the belt. And our bracket, this is our guide so it doesn't fall off. Put this on like so. The flat part, it's going to go like this on the pulley right here. And again, these are carriage bolts that are down into the frame, and that's how they stop themselves from spinning. It's a carriage bolt right there. All right, so just keep that in mind, that you have to pull down to kind of get these things so you can start them. And it's not real fun. Now I'm pushing against the guide to hold that bolt steady for now until I'm taking this nut off. I didn't want to lose all that stuff. I'm going to put the new pulley around the belt, flat side against flat side. Carriage bolt's got to come down just a little bit, just enough so I can get everything back up in here. And you also have to put the belt in the guide correctly. It's really, there it is. Just needed a couple threads. Once you get a couple of threads showing, you can try to spin that on, and then you pull it down to lock in the carriage bolt up top. Now I have to put this back up where it was for positioning, and then we have to figure out where this guide was. We may have to leave this a little bit loose until we get the belt in. So at this point, you have to put the brand new belt behind the fan, the transmission fan. And it can be a little tricky. You don't want to break the fan. And we just put a brand new one in. And I'm going to move this guide out of the way now a little bit, because what I'm trying to do is get behind the fan and get it into the pulley. And you can move this pulley around. And I have to get it around this side. You can see down in here. I have to get around the guide right here, this guide. So it's now down below the guide. We have it on this side here. Remember, at this point, we're going to bring this all up because it's in. We do have to go around the steering here, but that's after we go up through here. And then we have to get the arm through here like this. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it up over the engine shaft just to kind of keep it up there straight so we can figure out what's going on down here. Now this is a guide also here, and this has to go in between there like that. This one has to go in between here like this. All right, so we have the guide here, belt on one side, belt on the other side that's actually on the inside of that guide. So I'm going to go ahead and put the bolt up through here and put the nut on top. And at this point I can tighten this side up because the belt is in the pulley on both sides. So we're going to go ahead and tighten up both of these right now. Make sure they're tight. All right, so these are tight, guide is tight. Now we have it on the pulley here. Now I was concerned about this. I'm gonna wait right now until we get the engine pulley on and we'll get the spring on, and then we'll be able to figure out exactly where these guides are not gonna be rubbing. So let's go ahead and put the pulley that says up on. Now this also has there's a key up there. It's already on the shaft. Now that key could fall out on yours. A little bit of copper never sees, and the tolerance is pretty tight there, so it's all gonna be smoothed around. And you can, if you want to, you can spin it around a little bit there, and just make sure when you slide it up that we gotta take the belt, must go around it first like that, and I'm gonna grip it like this so it goes up in the guides. And as you can see where it lines up, it's kind of like a puzzle, and you'll feel it click in, and you bump it up there. And we're just gonna keep pushing until we get it to go up. Sometimes you can use a rubber mallet. A little bit tight. Oh, okay, so this could happen. This is what just happened to me. The key just fell out. So what I'm going to do now, it's going to make it a lot easier. We're going to go ahead and put the pulley all the way up, and then we're going to put the key in. All right, this is being a bugger, so I'm going to go ahead and try a couple different ways. All right, so I was able to get the keyway to start this way. Sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're not. I'm going to go ahead and push it up. And if you need to, you just got to keep pushing it all the way up. Make sure it's up in there. Key is inside the keyway. All right, at this point, it should stay just because of the fact that it was hard going up in there. Shouldn't be that hard, but it was on this one. Now, we put the electric clutch up in here. The key right here has to go up into this. Now, we have to have everything lined up. We got to make sure this electric is to my left. And you can always turn. You can turn the inside bearing to make this key move. All right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to line up this slot here with the bar here, and I'm going to kind of put that over there first, and then just slide it up so I know I'm close. Get it started on the shaft. Okay, it just went on, and now since I moved so much around, I'm using my fingers underneath here, and I'm finding the hole that has to go up into the bar, into the guide. The bar coming off the frame right here goes into the bottom here. The bracket right there, and it's hitting. So that's it right there. Hopefully you guys will figure that out. Now at this point I'm holding the clutch up, and I'm going to put the bolt back in. Go ahead and tighten that up to specifications. And we're going to go ahead and put your wire clip back on here. Now this was tucked up. This was tucked up like that, and since it's in the frame, you can take that out of the frame, but I don't need to. I'm gonna clip it in like that, make sure it's all the way in, and then I'm gonna tuck this away again like that, and that's good. It's not gonna go anywhere. All right, so we're all good there. And now I'm gonna engage the spring, which is right here. All right, so this spring has to go on down here. It goes on right here. Now, being that this is a brand new belt, it's not going to be stretched. I'm just trying to get this, make sure that's all the way up. It's going to probably be a little bit harder to put this spring back on again. but we'll give it a shot. Actually, it's facing the wrong direction. The spring should be facing, this spring here should be facing so you can pinch it up into there. So make sure you have it facing the right way, as I did not. And then we're gonna try this again. And I'm just gonna pull up on it and be very careful. Guys are wearing eye protection just in case this thing springs. I'm pushing on it as I'm doing it. And there it is. All right, so now the only one I have to worry about tensioning is this guy right here, because I wanted to see where it all runs. You wanna make sure that, yes, the belt is gonna be close, and I can see that we were actually very close. This guide was actually rubbing the belt right here. So it's very important that you may wanna leave this, leave it loose so you can make sure that there's a gap here and a gap here. And it's not much of a gap, but you don't wanna have this rubbing like that, and you don't wanna have this one rubbing like this. So you have to have it just open at each end like that. If you have a gap here and a gap here, you can go ahead and tighten this back up. See how it moved? So it just moved on me. So at this point, I'm gonna have to hold it down a little bit, or start a little bit back, and it'll come up. All right. Now I also want to make sure that this will spin. You don't want to think that these will just spin and everything's fine. We already tightened this one up because I'm pretty much sure I knew I had it in the correct spot, which it is. So this guy is good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually push in the clutch, which should make this tension, makes the belt tension get loose. And it's the brake / clutch. And I'm gonna lock it into the emergency brake position like that. Now, this belt should be loose, and it is. All right, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be when you're in the brake position. Okay, that is spinning freely. Okay, go up around here. Make sure you're on the right side of everything through here. Make sure you're on the pulley. Make sure your electric is good. All right, now we have to put the arm on for the steering. And it's just much easier to take the steering off there. For me, you guys, if you want to do it down below, that's fine. So one last check, I'm going to go ahead and take the brake off. And yeah, that's pretty much, everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and put it down, take it for a test drive, and that's pretty much how you install a transmission drive belt on an LX176 Hydro. Please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, tell your friends about my channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.